So, ladies, are you ready to host the Oscars?
Yeah, we're gonna crush this.
We just have to do better than last year's host.
That is the thing.
That's
totally. It is a competition in
I
that
don't
way.
remember last year's host.
God, they must have sucked.
I bet they got canceled.
Trash.
Oh, wait. There wasn't a host last year.
Oh.
Or the year before.
Wait a minute, come on.
Or the year before.
Oh,
Boom, we're already winning.
we're nailing it.
Give it to me.
Okay.
The Oscars live Sunday, March 27th, hosted by Regina Hall, Amy Schumer, and Wanda Sykes on ABC.
You understand English? Absolument pas. Good Lord. Oh, well.
Uno, due, tre.
Good evening. Public programming for 2022 Oscar Week is made possible in part by the Ruderman Family Foundation, which promotes authentic representation in the entertainment industry and full inclusion of people with disabilities throughout all sectors of society. And now, please welcome the co-chairs of the International Feature Film Award Executive Committee, Rajendra Roy and Susanna Beer.
God evening.
Buonasera.
God aften.
Konbanwa.
God kväll.
Chiro dile. Those are the 5 languages of the films we are honoring tonight. This is a celebration of international film. Welcome.
First of all, I lost my voice, so excuse. We are so thrilled to be back in person at the wonderful Samuel Goldwyn Theatre. 2 years ago, the film industry took a pause. Movie theaters temporarily closed their doors, and we waited for this moment to return here with you. We truly feel the love in this room tonight, not only for international feature category, but for the community of filmmakers and film lovers alike. I'm going to leave it to Raj because this is clearly painful for everyone.
If you want any insight on this particular condition, there is an epic selfie going around from the director's dinner last night. They had a lot of fun. The nominated international feature films were voted on by hundreds of Academy members from all over the globe this year. They collectively committed many hours of their time to view the 92 films that were submitted to represent their respective countries. Many of these dedicated members are here with us tonight, and we would like to thank them for their commitment, passion, and hard work. Please give a round of applause to the executive and voting committee members of the International Feature Film category. Please stand if you're here with us. Thank you so much. You. Shall I continue?
Okay.
The international filmmakers who are here with us tonight helped remind us why we fall in love with the movies. Even though the global pandemic kept us distanced, their movies connected us. They kept our community of film lovers intact. They introduced us to unique characters and transported us to different locations, from a remote mountain in Bhutan to the bustling city of Naples, from an animated vision of war-torn Afghanistan to a contemporary fable in Oslo. Through the landscapes of Hiroshima, let's take a look at the 5 films nominated for Best International Feature Film.
네가 뭐 축구배 아닐람 되나를 주겠까.
From Bhutan, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, Pawo Shangi Doji, director.
네가 뭐 축구배 아닐람 되나를 주겠까. 날파 까라 카우 차디빌라. 다 뒤기 줄어서 안 nim침해. 카울로 케일로 셈수 미기름에 더멜라.
딜로 글로벌 워밍 셀라비. 글로벌 워밍.
나 루비 수미 까실라니. 고포 하미 스윙가 지메 시벨라 가지나. 대보들로 아니 강기 카우다 케드수. 간싱게 까모 참생이 있으면 지대실라. 달로지오 로지 카우다 케뉴스 뉴스 주의 간래. 간싱게 까모 두세 참sam해 봐. 조화라니 잡는 데날에 얘기 그냥 가보 도멜랑하게 돼. so amale o kayola to jeroya so amale
같이 병원에 나. 날레베 수업에 민mel라 혼자. 나 실능나나 해지 뭐. 마요라 너도 도로 가는니다 저거라. 들레베 나고 담아 진디기 이거 밑에서 가라 날레베로 펩수셔 좀 오면. 왜? 마치게 아서 겁지 마스미 나인다.
그삼보 마치 로나나기 미세 소다 마라카툴레 리비체말레 소이라 야진실 주 마치기 리비 줄레틴디베 마치 알로솔로 시엔 톱수 델레 야촌이 야적임부 톤닐을 하디 주룹 토보노이 레왕하라 가톨레이 시게 수제잖아.
그렇지.
리베 시제지 사와진 전기 몰래. 알았어.
From Denmark, Flea, Jonas Poer Rasmussen, director.
Jeg kan ikke huske den dag, vi flygter, og jeg kan slet ikke huske, hvordan vi kommer fra Rusland til... Jeg kan ikke huske det. Vi har kørt, tror jeg, i mange timer. Nu kan jeg godt huske det. Vi kørte i sådan en lastbil, der fragter altså træer, der bliver fældet, og så kører de os. Og så bliver vi læsset af på et eller andet tidspunkt i en skov, og så skal vi sidde der og vente, og det er helt vildt koldt. Og vi har ikke sådan rigtig ordentligt tøj på. Der er 2 ting, som jeg glemmer aldrig om den her nat.
بیا مادر جان ما باید پیش بریم
یه زن پیره که اینجا مهرم یه زن پیره قاچاق آوردن پیسه ما رو سر کل
بسریه یکی ها استویته صبر
Эй, вы там, пошевеливайтесь, давайте.
Bu taş aynen şu taraf mı lan meşa?
چی فکر کردم؟ چی فکر کردم؟ مادرم نیستم. موبایل کار کردم.
شما باید به این دیگه بود بدین.
دیگه بود نداره.
بچه خب بگیر کده ما. تو میفهمی که ما سر سرعت تیر میشیم.
چی میخوای بکنم؟
باید تو رو بکشه.
نمیتونه که بوتایشو بکشه.
اگه تو نمیکشیش بوتایش من میکشه.
Что тут происходит? Нельзя останавливаться. Вы должны продолжать идти во что бы то ни стало. Мы же вам говорили об этом. Давай, 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 пошли.
Петя.
دست نمیزنیش.
نه نکن. ما بغلش میکنم. Понесу его.
Мы вас ждать не будем. Пошли, давайте.
نترس بچیم. کوکو با ما کمک میکنه. خواجم. خیر ببینیم یه بار.
صبر کنین. آرام برین.
Блин, ну сколько можно уже все это происходит? Я же пытаюсь им помочь, они все время устают. Она нас задерживает. Почему бы просто не пустить ей пулю?
Så vi skyder hende i hovedet og efterlader hende her. Sådan helt koldblodigt.
Я могу ее пристрелить. Без вопросов.
Нет. Я заставлю ее идти. Идти быстро.
Jeg tror, det var hendes søn, han siger det til. Min mor var gammel også. Den her dame, det var godt, at hun ikke forstod russisk.
From Italy, The Hand of God, Paolo Sorrentino, director.
Insomma, che altro ti ha detto Fellini?
Niente. A un certo punto lo chiama un giornalista. Fellini gli fa: il cinema non serve a niente, però ti distrae. E secondo me il giornalista gli avrà detto una cosa tipo: ti distrae da che cosa? E Fellini gli fa: dalla realtà. La realtà è scadente.
Solo questo ha detto.
Ti pare poco?
È lui?
Comunque stammi a sentire, ti giuro.
Va bene, ti piace questo quadro che ho comprato? È una litografia di Guttusi. Tieni conto che Guttusi è uno dei nostri.
Sì, ma ti giuro che era proprio Maradona. Chiedi a Marchino quando arriva.
Stronzati, basta, leggi qua, Maradona niente Napoli. Poi, non andare un po' via.
Lascia stare.
Il provino mi ero scordato.
Marchi, e diglielo tu che era Maradona.
Pareva proprio lui.
Che fittata?
C'era una volta in America.
Ah, quello con De Niro. Dopo ce lo vediamo.
E la signora Pickler? Buonasera, buonasera. Sono l'assistente del maestro Zeffirelli. Sì, ecco. Il maestro mi dice che l'ha incontrata, se ricordo bene, a un matrimonio. Sì, sì. Ed è rimasto particolarmente colpito dal suo volto, luminoso e vivace, così l'ha definito. Ecco. E dal momento che il maestro sta preparando il suo prossimo film sulla Hallas e sta cercando la protagonista, ecco, vorrebbe vederla. Pensa che sia possibile incontrarlo a Roma?
Serenite, la Toto ricevuto.
Vorrei fare un momento due osservazioni. Ma prima ancora di parlare di questo,
Oh,
appunto.
ma perché non ci compriamo il televisore col telecomando come tutti?
Non dici cazzate, io sono comunista. Lei sei andata in bagno?
Su di in bagno c'è sta Daniele.
Graziella! Amici! Una notizia incredibile.
Ciao, Ben.
L'assistente di Zeffirelli ha chiamato Graziella. Vuole farle fare la protagonista del prossimo film.
No!
Brava, Graziella.
Ma brava, brava Graziella. Ma brava mamma, brava. Complimenti, complimenti.
Ma che sta succedendo qua?
Una notizia incredibile! Graziella deve fare il prossimo film di Zeffirelli. Farà la Callas!
Come lo sai che fa la Callas?
Gesù, l'ho letto su gente. Grazie, poi ci scappa l'Oscar. Mi raccomando, quando vai a Hollywood non ti dimenticare di noi.
Io non mi dimenticherò mai di voi, Maria.
Questa battuta l'hai detta benissimo.
Torniamo subito a casa. E se Zeffirelli richiama?
Mi pare che uscite giusto, correte, correte.
Sabato festeggiamo.
Sabato.
Arrivederci.
Ah, festeggiamo.
Io non ci vado alla premiere. Sarà una cafonata.
Esatto, mi sono scucciato.
Arrivederci, baronessa.
È incredibile sta storia,
È incredibile. Te la vuoi togliere questa abitudine di fare gli scherzi? Tu me la uccidi a quella, la uccidi.
Non lo saprà mai che sono stata io.
No, Maria. Invece lo saprai come, perché tu mo vai di là e gli dici che era tutto uno scherzo. Noi siamo comunisti. Siamo onesti a livello interiore.
Io da sola non ci vado.
Voi napoletani! Voi napoletani! Non è vero come dicono tutti che siete simpatici. Siete cattivi! Questo siete! Maria, non ti voglio mai più vedere. E tu? Non ti accettare a prendere i caneli. Oh!
Tu sta ferma.
From Japan, Drive My Car, Rushka Hamaguchi, director.
彼女の運転はどうですか？素晴らしいと思います。加速も減速もとても滑らかで、ほとんど重力を感じません。車に乗ってるのを忘れることもある。いろんな人の運転する車に乗ったけど、こんなに心地いいのは初めてです。彼女にドライバーを頼んでもらってよかったと今は思ってます。이렇게 편안한 차는 처음 타보신대. 미사키에게 운전을 부탁한 걸 다행이라고 생각하셨대.俳優のことも一度それぐらい褒めてくださいと言ってます。
これは褒めてくださいですか？
はい。
フライ。
誘っていただいてありがとうございました。
誘ってくれたのはユンスさんだ。
素敵なお二人でした。
ああ。
稽古を見てみたくなりました。ユナさんの葬儀。テープをずっと聞いてたので、この人が葬儀なのかと思って。
ああ。稽古を見に来たらいい。
いえ、大丈夫です。すみません。
いや、来たらいい。
かけますか、テープ。
ワーナさん、あなたは教育もあって頭もいいからきっとお分かりになるはずよ。世の中が滅びるのは悪党でもなければ。
君はずっと聞いててうんざりしないか？
しません。
敵意だとか
この声が好きなんだと思います。
小競り合いのためなの。
そうか。
だから
誰の声なんですか？
ならないのに道をこぼすことではない。
妻の声だ。
仲直りさせることじゃないでした。
僕のやり方は戯曲の流れを本当に全部頭に入れておく必要がある。だからうんざりするほど聞く。ワーニャはもともと僕自身が出演していたからワーニャのセリフの部分が空いてる。僕のリズムでセリフを言えばぴったり次のセリフが来る。
すごい。
さっき言ったことは嘘じゃない。車に乗ってることを忘れて君がいることまで忘れるんだ。うるさいだろ。
いえ、お仕事ですから。
君は運転をどこで身につけた？
地元です。北海道の上十二滝村っていう車がないと何もできないところです。運転は母から教わって中学の時からしてました。
中学から？
はい。母は札幌で水商売の仕事をしてました。市内へ出る電車の最寄り駅までの送り迎えを中学の時から私は車でしてたんです。私の村から駅まで1時間。夕方5時に家を出て朝は7時に迎えに行きます。行き帰りの2時間、母はほんの少しでも寝たがりました。母を起こすような運転をすると背中を蹴られて、降りてからも殴られます。それでどんな悪い道でも母を起こさないように運転を覚えました。
そうか。
言っていただいたこと、とても嬉しかったです。
いや、
運転を教えてくれたこと自体は母にとても感謝してます。自分のためだったとは思いますけど、教え方はとても丁寧でした。
そうか。
はい。
そうなんだろう、きっと。
from Norway, The Worst Person in the World. Joachim Trier, director.
Kaffe?
Ja.
That's good.
Un sticker. Aksel. Må snakke med deg.
Ja, selvfølgelig. Har det skjedd noe?
Julie sa at hun hadde tenkt på det lenge.
Det er en ting jeg har tenkt på en stund.
Det var ikke hans skyld. Det var ikke sånn at det var noe han kunne gjort annerledes.
Det er ikke noe du har gjort, eller din skyld eller noe, men jeg føler å...
Det handlet om ting de hadde kranglet om 1000 ganger. Ting han visste like godt som henne. Det var bare bad timing. De hadde bare møtt hverandre på for ulikt sted i livet. De ville bare for forskjellige ting.
Veldig forskjellige ting.
Gjør du slutt med meg?
Please join us welcoming the 5 directors of the international feature. Sorry.
That you got the line out. It's good. So, as I read your names, please come up to the stage and receive the official certificate of nomination on behalf of your country. And Susanna Beer will present that to you. Academy team. So first, for the very first time, from Bhutan, Pao Chungying Dorji, Director Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom. From Denmark, Jonas Paus Rasmussen, Director, Flea. From Italy, Paolo Sorrentino, Director, The Hand of God. From Japan, Ryusuke Hamaguchi, Director, Drive My Car. And from Norway, Joachim Trier, the worst person in the world. No, he's not. He made it. I think they want a group shot, right? So you don't get to keep them. Gotta give them back. You'll get them back later.
And you'll get them back, and please sit down. So, you all spend so much of this year talking about your films. So we thought it would be really interesting, in the spirit of being colleagues, that each of you talked about one of the other films. So.
Yes. Maestro Sorrentino, we will begin with you. Would you mind saying a few words, and again, just very briefly, 1 or 2 minutes, about your colleague, director Hamaguchi's film, Drive My Car? Just some thoughts you have about Drive My Car.
It's just a very brief description.
Brief description of the movie, or of the director, or of the...
I'm sure we would all love to hear a description of the director, but in this case, it's the movie.
First of all, I am not so good to talk about movies. Not only my movie, but also other movies. So I will be very, very short. And this guy is a nightmare for all the directors that would love to go to the important festivals or important awards. And I think that we will, in the future, we will. It's important that we do movies when he is not going to do the movie. You know what I mean? Yes. So it's important that before doing a movie, we call him and say, "What are you going to do?" Yeah. Because he's a great director and he's a great example of how to do a deep movie. And what can I say? It's he has done a great movie, but I don't know what to say. I have to say that there is something in common with all the movies, all the 5 movies. I think that it's more important than to talk about the single movies. And my feeling is that all these movies have a great humanity, a great deep about the human being, a great sensibility about what it means to be kind, to be smart, to be good people. And this is the reason why these movies are very important in this precise moment of our history. This is what I think.
Thank you.
What else?
That's perfect.
That's perfect?
Thank you.
I can go ahead for many...
Save it. We
Okay.
want more. But it's now your film's turn. Joachim, will you speak to Hand of God, please?
Yes, I would love to. I was very moved by this film. Paolo, you made what I would say is a prime example of personal cinema. I feel your storytelling abilities, your eye, your love for the people that you tell us the story about. It's a story that moved me deeply because it's about how loss and grief changes us, but also makes us grow. It doesn't only destroy us, even though it can feel like that sometimes. It's a hopeful film. It's also about, it's sort of a coming-of-age story, but it's also a coming of becoming an artist story that I, without knowing you, I mean, I know you a little bit now because we traveled, and it's been an honor because I've been a fan of your cinema for such a long time. You're a great filmmaker. But I also sense that this film is even more so than anything you've done, a step towards biographical, brave personal story. And I think it's very, we should remember, you know, like making movies, it's a big machine. There's a lot of people involved. It's very hard to be vulnerable and to take chances and risks like you've done in this film. So, you know, I would love to have spoken about all of your films, but I'm also glad to be allowed to talk about Paolo's film. And yeah, thank you for your movie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonas, will you tell us something about Lunana?
Yes, Pavel. I had a very profound experience when I watched your film. I saw it at a hotel here in Hollywood, which feels very far from where your film takes place. But I grew up in rural Denmark, and even though Bhutan and Denmark are not alike at all, I think supposedly both places are very happy places, very happy countries. But Denmark is extremely flat. And Bhutan is not. But I grew up in the countryside, and to watch your film reminded me of the importance of being able to look far, growing up in a place where you can see afar and things doesn't happen immediately. And your film is really a profound story about what happiness is and what makes you feel calm and in center of yourself. And I felt that very much. So thank you for making that.
Thank you so much. So, Paolo, maybe you can return either the favor or however you read that to Jonas and talk to us about Flea.
You know, I've said this many times in my interviews, but in my culture, when we say, tell me a story, in English, of course, we say, tell me a story. But in our culture, when we say, tell me a story, we say, please untie a knot for me. Stories are supposed to have this liberating, freeing, and untying purpose in life. And when I watched Flea, that's what I felt. I felt untied. I feel, there was a higher purpose in the story you were telling. And it was even more personal for me because I'm an avid traveler, and I always end up going to places, where, there are, the usual tourists don't go, because I'm always hunting for stories. And I have been to Afghanistan, and, I was able to meet people just like the characters in your movie. And I think what a very essential point of your film is that it teaches us empathy. And I think that is such a valuable quality from my travels in Afghanistan. That's what I realized. All human beings, we have empathy, we have the same love, the same kindness. But unfortunately, because of politics, religion, we have built up these barriers to segregate as us and them. And your film went a long way in reminding me of to value empathy. And I think that's what we need to celebrate in the present. So thank you so much.
And finally, Director Hamaguchi, would you say a few words about The Worst Person in the World?
Yeah. Yeah. So, The Worst Person in the World. It's a very good title. 一番最初にこのタイトルを聞いた時、全くなんていうんですかね、内容を知らなかったので、これはきっと大量殺人か何かが起きる映画なんだろうと、そういう人間を描いているに違いないと、ポスターの彼女はきっと殺人を犯した後にあんなに爽快な顔で走っているんだと、なんて恐ろしい映画をこれから見るんだろうと思って見始めました。
So first I came across the title of the film, and I didn't know anything about it before I watched the movie. And because of the title, I was thinking, oh, maybe this movie is going to be about mass murder, and perhaps there's this woman in the poster who looks really refreshed. Maybe it's after she had killed many people, and I was preparing myself for watching a very scary movie.
でも全然違ったということなんですよね。本当にでも爽やかな映画でまず驚きました。そして見ていくうちにこのワーストパーソンインザワールドだって自分のことを思う彼女の気持ちっていうのは自分たちがその生活の中でする選択とそう遠いものじゃ全くなくって何だったらこのザワーストパーソンインザワールドっていうのは自分自身のこととしても全然捉えられる本当に普遍的な映画だと思いました。
But then once I saw it, it wasn't like that at all. It was an incredibly refreshing film, and the title "Worst Person in the World," and maybe perhaps this is reflecting her feeling about herself, but it really made me feel that it's really all of these could be choices that we all make. I think the worst person in the world could be all of us, and so I really felt that the story was incredibly universal.
で、今本当にまさにご覧いただいた場面とかは、本当にこれから何十年その恋愛映画をもし作ろうと思ったら、恋する2人の喜びを描こうと思ったらずっと参照されるような本当に素晴らしい場面だというふうにまず思います。
And that scene we all watched together, I really feel that if we all were to make a romantic film about two people falling in love, I feel like that scene is the scene that people will talk about for decades as a reference point.
でも、それだけじゃないわけですよね。その恋するっていうことに伴って別れがあり、そしてとても短い時間があって、そして死まである、本当に普遍的な、我々の人生そのものを描いたような本当に素晴らしい傑作だと思います。本当にこの映画を作ってくれてありがとうございます。
But it's of course not just that. It's really also about knowing that to fall in love also means to separate, that there's death also involved, that time is limited. And I think for that, I think it's an incredibly universal story. It's really about life. I think it's a masterpiece. So thank you for making this film.
Part of what's so interesting about this category is the fact that we all see films from such a different perspective. We all seem to watch the same images, and then because of our cultural references, we understand them very differently and yet universally. And which is why we wanted all of you to talk about the other films. I think we also want you to talk about your own films as well. So
yeah, no, and very much to your point, Paolo, there is a connective tissue there between the films, and that, to my mind, has to do with personal journeys, right? At the center of each of your film is a personal journey. In some cases, it's autobiographical. It's taken from your own story. In some cases, it's adapted from other material or other life experiences. But I'm curious, we're curious, what the personal journey of bringing this film into the world has been for you, either as it relates to your film or just generally. We all know how much work it is to launch a film and to get it in front of viewers. We're curious, talk to us about what this last year plus has been for you. What's been the craziest experience or the most profound thing you've learned in sharing this film with audiences? And Paolo, perhaps since you're the new guy by a lot and everything was new in a way for you on this journey, you could start off talking about.
Well, I think craziest experience is finding myself here. This is my first film, and thank you. And when we had our first panel discussion, I looked across the stage at 4 of them, and I was telling them that, you guys are the reason why I became a filmmaker. You guys inspired me. And I find it so surreal that now I'm here. What kind of discussion am I supposed to have with you guys? I think the journey of this film, this small film made on solar batteries in the world's most remote classroom, the fact that it's now reached here, at the Oscars, this really, really is a celebration of all the possibilities that is possible, when it comes to art, creativity. And since you were talking about the committees here who voted, I want to thank you all for this wonderful, special opportunity, because, I feel like the story of Lunana coming here, it gives hopes to millions of storytellers out there, from who are struggling, who don't believe in what they're doing, who don't have the support, who come from small, poor countries like Bhutan. You guys have really given them a sense of hope that when they see Lunana's journey, they're like, hey, that could be us too, we can make it. So it's been very, very surreal.
How was it received in Bhutan?
Oh, very, very well, very well. Bhutanese film industry is very, very different from, the rest of the world. We have like 2 cinemas with a high school projector. We go and plug in our laptop, and then usually the director sits in the booth because they're worried that someone will steal the film from the laptop. But the film was very well received, and that was something I wanted to do because, as many of you know, this is Bhutan's first Oscar submission in 23 years. There aren't many films coming out, and I'm sure now this journey will inspire a lot of Bhutanese storytellers to also, make films.
Paolo, The Hand of God is a very personal story. And so in many chapters and involving many characters who you know so well, and now we feel we know so well, and maybe we claim them a bit. How has it been sharing these very personal characters with the world?
It's interesting because in all my career I had the dream to do comedies, and I never succeeded. And but in this movie, in the first part of the movie, the people laughed a lot. So I was very happy because I thought, okay, at the end of the screening, the people will come to speak with me about what is funny in the movie. Instead, happened the opposite. The people come to me to share with me the pain, the grief. And so it's 7 months that I am around, and I know many stories about the grief and the pain of the people. And I am a little bit tired to hear too many tragedies. But even because there is nothing to say to somebody that has lived a tragedy, a big pain, a big grief. So you can just hear and to try to hug, but the COVID prevent us to hug each other. So, but it was interesting for me to see how the people react always in the same way wherever I show the movie, because the movie is, at the end of the day, is a simple movie about simple feelings, about, about the fact that in the life we can laugh and we can cry, and it's not easy to figure out the reasons why once we laugh and once we cry. Yeah. That's it.
I mean, continuing with the theme of grief, Director Hamaguchi, clearly at the center of Drive My Car, there is, there are both lead characters are dealing with this. Maybe you could talk about your experience of bringing this into the world, and if you've had any similar experiences to Paolo.
そうですね、自分がその映画を作っている時に、テーマみたいなことはあまり考えない、そのキャラクターがどうやって問題をくぐり抜けるんだろうっていうことを考えているけれども、今こうしていろんな国に届いて、これがまさにその喪失の話だったのかっていうことをちょっと後から気づく、まさに喪失とそしてどう生き直すかっていう話を観客からの反応で強く感じることになります。
Generally speaking, when I'm making movies, I'm not necessarily thinking about the theme. I'm really thinking about my characters and how they're going to get over their issues and problems. And it's really only after the film is being shown that I'm starting to, and hearing from other people, that I learned that this film is actually about loss and also regeneration. And so it's really through the audience's reactions that I really realized this.
で、自分の映画だけじゃなくて、ここにいる全ての映画が何がしかの喪失、そしてそこから生きていくことっていうのを語っていると思います。例えばふるさとであるとか最愛の人であるとか、そういうものを語っている映画というものが今とても多くの観客に響いているんだなっていうことは、すごく強く感じている。
And I don't say this about just my own film, but I feel this about everybody's films here today, is that in some way or another, each story is really about loss and also, but then how these characters keep on living, whether that's the loss of a hometown or whether that's the loss of somebody you love. And I think I'm realizing very much and feeling very much that these kinds of stories are resonating with many people in the audience.
まあでもそれは自分自身にとってもそうですけど、まあ、本当に自分自身の喪失とか喪失の恐怖に向き合うって本当に難しいことだと思うんです。なのでこの時映画っていうものを、まあ、少し距離を持って眺めることによって、まあ、この喪失っていう体験が一体どういうものなのか、まあ、自分にとってどういう意味があるのかっていうことを、まあ、多くの人が考えることが可能になっているのかもしれないっていうことをすごくまあ観客の反応を見ながら感じています。で映画っていうのはそういう観客の精神とつながる、まあ、そういう可能性があるんだということをまた強く感じています。
And, you know, obviously for me as well, I think loss is something difficult to face. There's a fear of loss. I think it's really difficult to face in general. And I think when we see these things happen on film, we're given a little bit of distance, and I think we're given the chance to really reflect upon what loss actually means to us, what loss means to ourselves. And I think these films make that possible. And it's really through seeing the reactions of the audience that I really see that these stories are really connecting with many people's hearts.
I thought when I watched the movie, and that might be yet again one of those cultural differences, that in spite of it being about loss, in each scene there's such a undercurrent of sense of humor. There's like always a kind of doubleness. Is that me reading into it, or was that intentional?
でもそう感じてくれたらとても嬉しいです。あんまりユーモアがない作品だと思われがちなところがあるので、ただ一人一人が本当にこの状況をちゃんと距離を持って眺めているところがある。でその距離っていうのはやっぱりユーモアの感覚、ちょっとまあもしかしたらアイロニーとかそういうものかもしれないですけれども、そういう感覚があると思います。で最終的にそういうもの、そういうちょっとなんていうんですかね、明るい感情っていうものが最終的にちょっと現れてくれるといいなと思っていたので、まあ、そう言ってくださるのは本当にとても嬉しいです。
I'm really thankful that you say that because my film tends to be seen as something humorless and rather serious. But I do feel that each character in the film has a sort of distance, and maybe that distance creates a little bit of irony or at least a distance to be able to see oneself. And so I think ultimately there was a hope for me that you can also feel a brighter side, a brighter feeling amongst everything.
So, Joachim, I get the sense that every millennial in the universe has latched onto your film and said, "This is my story. You got me." Do you feel that pressure? Am I just like, I mean, I'm not a millennial, so it's hard to...
And also, how are you going to do that next time?
Yeah. I've done it for 15 years. No, I'm joking. I haven't. No, but it's always this thing. I try to do something very personal, and I don't analyze it generationally.
So who are you in the film?
I don't know. I'm all of them. That's the truth. That's the truth. You got to become all of them to write them truthfully. It sounds cheesy, but it's my honest answer. And I write with Eskil Vogt, my dear old friend, who's here somewhere, and we sit in a room and we don't think that we're going to make something about millennials or this or that. I mean, I try to look at characters. I try to be a good observer of people I know, situations I've been in. And I try to avoid just getting into my own biographical stuff because that's not a very funny story. So I try to find ways of identifying into the characters that we talk about. And you're absolutely right. It's been a joy, though. I don't feel any pressure. You know, I work in Norway, in a country with 5 million people, and suddenly I can meet interesting people in Turkey or France or LA that say, "Oh, I identify with what you're doing," and it's a great joy. It's my dream. This is me having grown up being that kid who watched films from everywhere else, having to read subtitles. Even American films were foreign language to me. You know, so I had to engage with the cinematic language, and this feeling that I'm allowed to be a part and play a part in that experience of sharing different cinematic possibilities and being seen for that means a lot. You know, I'm a third-generation filmmaker. My grandfather was a filmmaker. He wasn't seen so much with his wonderful films. My parents worked with movies, you know, and now, so I know what it's worth. I don't take it for granted, you know. So actually, I don't know. I don't feel pressure. I feel joy if people say that they feel close to my stuff.
That's wonderful.
And Jonas, oh, sorry, do you? I was just going to say, you know, you had the incredible responsibility of translating this story of, you know, this refugee experience, and a story that became so intensely relevant to our times in the process of making it and releasing it. Talk about the sense of responsibility, perhaps, that you had in translating that story.
But you know, in the beginning, I didn't think that I was gonna do a refugee story. To me, it was really a story about my friend and this thing that he had carried around for all these years, and a fundamental curiosity about the story. And when we started making the film, he had a growing kind of feeling that he needed to share his story, to get his past and present to connect. So it's really, you know, from the friendship that this grew. And then in the process of making the film, you know, my perspective changed. We started out in 2013. The first conversations in my living room in Copenhagen was in 2013. And then 15, the refugee crisis hit in Europe, and we had certain refugees in the highways all over Europe and also in Denmark. And I thought, well, maybe I can give these people a human face, because often they were just described by being just refugees. And because Amin's story took place 25, 30 years ago, and was told from the inside of a friendship, that I could give some nuance and perspective to these people we saw on the streets. And then all the work of making the film, and here we are now, with what's going on in the world, and it's been really schizophrenic to be a part of this campaigning at the same time as it feels like the world is on fire, at the same time as Afghanistan tumbles, as what's going on in Ukraine. So to be on this kind of stage at film festivals, having cocktails, has been surreal. But also, you know, it became more meaningful to me to really push for getting this film out there, because there's a growing number of refugees around the world, and to give to give Amin his story, to be out there so they have something they can relate to, a nuanced portrait of the refugee experience, and give a bit of hope that you can get past it and not be a refugee anymore and become a full human being again, was really, has been, you know, really what I'm taking from the experience of getting the film out there.
So we asked a little bit about the impact your film has had in your country, Paolo, but anybody else want to speak about the impact locally, assuming your films have all been released in your home countries?
Can I just ask, sorry, so the impact, I just wanted to, the impact globally on Flee, what have that been? I mean, in this part of the world, yes, but have anybody in Afghanistan seen? Have you got reactions from the source?
I don't know if there's been any screenings in Afghanistan. I think that's very difficult right now. But I've had a lot of Afghans who've seen the film, and both people who lived in Afghanistan in the 80s when Amin lived there, and who recognize their own home, and people who, and not just people from Afghanistan, people who have tried to be a refugee, who really feel seen by Amin's story. That it's not just his story, but it's also their story. You know, and in Denmark locally, our premiere was at a very bad time. It was the first week of summer. Our premiere day was the same day as Denmark played Belgium in the European Football Championship, which meant that either people were on the beach or they were watching football, what you call soccer here. So we didn't have a lot of audiences in the beginning, but slowly, you know, with everything the film has done globally, a large audience has been there, even though I just read that the Prime Minister hadn't seen it yet. So that's what I'm hoping for next, that she's going to see it and maybe make a bit of change in the legislation in Denmark.
I mean, I can add to that, being Danish as well, that it makes a huge difference to a movie locally that it has a global audience. You know, a movie can die, and then they're being seen somewhere else, and then they get a completely different life.
Actually, if I can add something to that, I think people here in Hollywood and the Academy members, you all have a very important responsibility, because you know, what you decide kind of influences the rest of the world. And you know, even with my film, once it was shortlisted and eventually nominated, you know, the rest of the world, including Bhutanese themselves, then started paying attention to it. So, you know, what you decide, then the rest of the world follows suit. So, you know.
But we are very conscientious of that, which is why we are so eager not for any small, wonderful movie coming from very far away not to be left out or not to be forgotten, because they tend to be, you know, obviously all the big territories know how to put a movie out there. So we are very conscious of that and very grateful, because for all of us it's a window into worlds we don't get access to otherwise, which is fascinating.
Paolo, do you want to talk? I mean, you're one of your country's leading artists at this point, kind of with the global impact. But again, coming back to, you know, you coming to tell a personal story, what has the reception been in Italy to the film?
No, the reception was very good, I have to say, better than other movies I did. So it was very, very good. And the movie was also released in Italy in cinemas for 3 weeks. Of course, I will not say the numbers because I can't because of Netflix. But no, the movie was a huge success in Italy, yeah, and I am happy about that. Then, yes, yeah. That's it.
No, I mean, actually, that's an interesting point, and one we shouldn't necessarily gloss over, is that your films were all released in a time when streaming was incredibly important for viewership, right? Theatrical was coming back and forth, and so Director Hamaguchi, I don't know. I mean, your film to me feels incredibly theatrical, meaning cinematic, like that's how I want to see it, but I would say, I would guess the majority of people have seen it on some sort of platform.
はい、そうですね。まあでも、まあ今やっぱり劇場で見て劇場っていいもんだなっていうのを思ったっていうのは正直なところですけど、やっぱりでもそれは集中力があるからですよね。その観客の集中力っていうのは映画にとって本当に最も重要なものだと思います。
Yes, you know, just having seen these clips in this theater really just reconfirmed to me how wonderful of an experience it is to watch films in a theater. And I think ultimately it's because of the concentration you're able to have as an audience member to be able to watch the film. And I think concentration is incredibly important for movie watching.
でこの集中力に立ち向かうっていうのはでも一方ですごく怖いことでもあって、現場で見落としてしまったものっていうものがやっぱり集中力がとてもある観客からはやっぱり見破られてしまう。ここが例えば嘘があるとか、ここが間違っているとか、そういうことが簡単に見抜かれてしまうっていうことは常々感じているし、その集中力に応えるようにして映画を作らなくちゃいけないっていうことを思っている。
But concentration could be a scary thing at the same time, because it means that the audience can also notice anything that perhaps I missed on set in a scene. For example, the audience can see different details. They can witness a lie. They can notice mistakes. And so when I'm making films, I am really thinking about this and how to respond to people's concentrations.
でこの集中力っていうのは、配信でも映画館でも究極的には関係がなくて、僕は本当に見たい映画は、YouTube でものすごい低い画質で見たりとか、そういうことをしながら見ていたりもしたので、それがいい、どっちがいいとか悪いっていうことはない。ただ観客に集中して見られても恥ずかしくないようにいつも映画を作りたいっていうことは思っているです。
But at the end of the day, I think the power of concentration can happen anywhere, whether it's streaming on or in theater. After all, or in theaters, because after all, when I really want to watch something, I'd still watch it on bad resolution on YouTube, and I'll still watch it. So it's really not about good or bad, but it's really about I am thinking about how I can make a film that won't be embarrassing to an audience who is very much concentrated on the film.
Joachim, you're nodding in agreement. Do you want
I know,
anything to
I
add?
love what he's saying. It's great. No, I agree. I mean, I still shoot on 35. My film has not, been released to be streamed anywhere yet. It's still out in the theaters. It's still rolling out. We're actually proving in a lot of countries that people want to go see specialized cinema, personal cinema, whatever you want to call it, art house cinema, in the theaters. It's still alive. It's still powerful. It's still strong. Many films are proving that right now. And there's a kind of, I don't know, I'm tempted to coin the phrase deep viewing. I like that. I like that you're engulfed in a movie, put away your phone, you're there with other people, you're sharing that. You can make, cinema is a great place to deal with films of loneliness. And I think a lot of these movies are dealing with that solitude, but you're sharing it in a room like this. This is how I grew up loving movies. I also grew up in a part of the world where the close-up was important. It was a humanist act. If you look at Dreyer from Denmark or Bergman from Sweden, close-ups is something uniquely cinematic, looking into the eyes of someone who fills the screen in front of you, and you can go and have a sense of intimacy closer than you would in your social life almost. And experience the human experience that you empathize with, identify with, observe closely, like Hamaguchi so wonderfully put it. Maybe there are even mistakes that we make that they'll see, and maybe those mistakes can make the film better sometimes. So I think the theatrical experience is essential. I love it. I'm going to keep shooting for the big screen. It's what I'm into. So I'm a film nerd. Forgive me.
Yeah. This is one of the largest gatherings, I think, of the Film Nerd Club in quite a while. So
no, I'm sensing it. It's good.
So before we wrap up this amazing gathering, I just wanted to take note. We wanted to note that this is a historic group. I mean, you're all making history in your own ways. Obviously with your work out in the world, but also in the context of the Academy and this year's Oscars, the 94th Oscars. A few years back, your colleague Bong Joon-ho, who also made some history in the Academy, challenged the world to look past that 1-inch barrier, right? To get over that 1-inch barrier. And just your thoughts on the progress that we collectively as a film community have made and the world has made in embracing, I think, Joachim, you put it this way, everything is foreign language depending on where you're sitting, but in the case of a US audience, perhaps looking beyond that 1-inch barrier. And optimistic, pessimistic, where do you stand?
Can I say, it's the irony, right? Because Paulo's worked with Netflix, and of course we all want Netflix to buy a lot of cinema chains and to show films on big screen because they make so many good movies. What Netflix has done, which is wonderful, is that I think they've helped a lot of American audience members accept films with subtitles. It seems to be happening. This is what I hear. I'm not a sociologist. Other people are smarter than me. But I'm happy if they're helping that process around the world, that we are sharing films and TV shows between cultures. So I'm rooting for that part of it. And then I just hope they're going to buy some cinema chains and get that alternative out there. Can't we coexist?
I mean, there's no doubt that international exchange have been greatly helped by fucking
I believe what she was trying to say. Fuck. That's what.
By the streamers. There's no doubt about that. the one thing, being the only woman in this panel, that I find slightly regrettable is that very fact that we have such a rich collection, and yet we are still, in so many ways, there's still there's still quite a bit of way to go.
Anyone else want to talk about? Yeah.
字幕っていうのが今バリアだっていうふうに言われてますけど、字幕っていうのはこれはねバリアじゃないと思いますよ。もうブリッジです。橋を架けるものだというふうに思います。アメリカ映画をずっと子供の頃から見ているし、その字幕で見ているけれども、それを障害だと思ったことはなくて、素晴らしい映画を自分たちに届けてくれるためのブリッジなんだっていうふうにどっちかっていうと感じているし、字幕があることによって俳優たちの素晴らしい声がそのまま聞ける。これ本当に素晴らしいことだと思ってます。
And so you spoke about the 1H barrier and this idea of subtitles that could be barriers or seen as barriers, but to me it's not a barrier. In fact, subtitles is a bridge. It's a bridge that connects. I have been watching American films as a child, and that's always been with subtitles, and I never once felt that they were barriers. And to me, it was really it was really connecting and bringing the world of film together. And to me, I think it's also a wonderful way to also be able to hear the voices of the actors themselves.
で字幕があることによって本当にその人たちの生の声っていうものを聞くことができるし、本当に姿形が全く違っても同じ人間なんだっていうことをすごく簡単に信じることができる、これは本当に素晴らしいことだし、この字幕の文化を育ててきたっていうのはもう映画が他の芸術に誇ることができるものだと思います。
And so I really feel that subtitles is because we are able to actually hear the raw, real voices of the actors themselves. I think it's a very simple and easy way for all of us to understand that even though we might speak differently, look different, we're still the same people, we're still humans. And so I think that is the power of subtitles, and I think the fact that film culture has been able to build subtitle culture is something that we can be proud of.
Paolo?
I don't know. I don't know the question about. I am not very interested about the question of subtitles, the language. I am only interested to a very simple thing, that the movie must be beautiful, and in order to do a beautiful film, the filmmaker must be free. That's it for me.
Yeah, but you come from a culture where there's a lot of dubbing.
A lot of dubbing.
Dubbing.
And I think in a way the point is that what the subtitle does is that you stay with the characters and you stay with the soul of the film, and you remove a lot of the soul by dubbing stuff. And in a way, if we could expand the love of subtitles, we would also expand the diversity and the generosity to a lot of different cultures. I think that was a point.
Yeah, it is. I agree. No. I was thinking, I don't know, because, for example, Stanley Kubrick hated the subtitles. He thought that the best thing was to dub the movies, and it was fine as well. So I think that everything can work if a movie is beautiful. Everything. It's very simple for me.
If anybody has proven that point, Paolo, it's you. It's true. You have proven that point many times.
Okay, thank you.
Jonas, you had the triple threat of subtitles in a documentary that's also animated, and you succeeded wildly in, literally making history at this year's Oscars with 3 nominations. But yeah, I know that there might be plans, or there were plans for there to be an unsubtitled version of this for international markets.
Yes, we have a French version and an English dub version. That's going to be out soon. Maybe it's even out now. I'm actually not sure. But you know, that was really from a perspective that this story is so important. So if we can get it to a broader audience in France and in English-speaking countries, and I'm sure also, you know, Spanish and Italian TV networks are going to dub it as well. But for us, just to be able to keep control over the dub, we engaged with Riz Ahmed and Nicolai Coster-Waldau, who dubbed it. So we have that. But you know, I love subtitles. I grew up in Denmark where everything is subtitled. I even put subtitles on Danish things because I don't want to miss things. You know, it's yeah. So to me, it's not a barrier. It's something that should be there. And for us, it was really just to make sure that we could push this film as far out as possible. So we did dub versions, but I really hope people will see the original version because there's so much of the story in the voice. That's really, you know, in the core of this film is a testimony from a real person, and the story is in the voice. So I really hope people will see that. And then maybe, but if I can get people to see that after they saw the dub version, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Paolo, last word to the new guy.
You know, I never minded the subtitles. In fact, just like Jonas, I watch English movies with English subtitles to get all the message through as well. But I think the situation is, I mean, getting better, you know. I mean, when I look at Flea, Worst Person in the World, even Drive My Car, the fact that foreign languages are now being nominated for multiple awards. And on top of that, even Best Screenplay, you know, it shows that the audience is getting past the subtitles. But the other thing is the fact that the front runner, one of the front runners, you know, Coda, is mostly with subtitles, and that's doing really great commercially. It shows
I think he just named a front runner. I don't know if that's news or that's not official Academy.
In a different category.
So it shows that the audience is, you know, getting past the one inch barrier.
Gentlemen, madam.
Thank you very much. Ridiculous.
We want to thank you so much for your work, most of all, for your films, for your presence and your generosity with the audience.
And can we just add that I know, I mean, I've been there. You all want to win. I've tried both. And it's, of course, more fun to win. But just being here is such a fucking big deal. Sorry, my language. And being in this amazing company is such a big deal. So I think we should all stand up and we should all give the nominees a hand.
And watch the Oscars on ABC Sunday evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Support international film. Thank you.
Thank you.